Classic rock trivia question. What was the Rolling Stones' very first single? In 1963, it was Come On, a Chuck Berry song. And Mick Jagger recalled the first time he heard it on radio. He said the label told him that the record would be played that weekend by Brian Matthew on the big Saturday morning BBC show called Saturday Club. Jagger said, I was glued to the radio at 10 o'clock, and there it was. We were, how's it go? Over the moon. For a century now, recording artists and radio stations have literally made beautiful music together. Airplay turned emerging acts into superstars and drove record and merchandise sales and sold concert tickets. And if you're my age, you went through lots of 9-volt transistor radio batteries during the British invasion and when Motown and the Beach Boys became the soundtrack of the 60s. Composers have always earned royalties, but artists have settled for exposure until now. Streaming services and iTunes and Amazon pay record labels, which now want radio to cough it up too. At their behest, Congressman Ted Deutsch, a Florida Democrat, and Darrell Issa, a California Republican, have introduced what they call the American Music Fairness Act, which would impose a new performance fee on local radio stations for playing artist songs. And here's a lesson in Washington speak. Fairness versus freedom, as in the Local Radio Freedom Act, supported by a bipartisan House majority, which would prevent Congress from imposing any new performance fee, tax, royalty, or other charge upon AM or FM stations. If these new fees do fly, the bigger the station, the bigger the cost. And on stations' behalf, the National Association of Broadcasters points out that the 3 largest record labels are foreign-owned Sony Music, Universal Music Group, and Warner Music Group, which account for 70% of all recorded music revenue and have a combined market cap of almost $170 billion. By arguing that the AMFA only targets big station groups, the record industry also says to broadcasters, especially minority broadcasters, you can be little, but you can never be big. Could new royalties cost us free music on radio? Let's ask 2 longtime broadcasters. David Bernstein has managed some of radio's most respected stations and now teaches media studies at the university level. And Paul Gleiser owns stations in Texas. And like your affable host, they are both long ago radio DJs. As I understand the threat, stations with annual revenue under $1.5 million would have to pay $500 a year, which doesn't seem crippling, or with ad revenue clobbered during the pandemic, and stations under attack from Pandora and other new tech competitors. Could this be the straw that breaks the camel's back? Paul, several years ago, you switched your oldie station to sports. Did the looming royalty threat figure in? And even if the fees are low for the little guy now, is the genie out of the bottle?
I think the genie is out of the bottle, Holland, and I think I oppose, and I stand with my industry association in opposing these fees in recognition that they're probably coming anyway. Because radio has, to my great regret, abandoned the value proposition to the record labels to a large extent by taking away what made radio unique, which was the curation of music that only live local radio could do. And radio has turned into a rather poor music appliance, and there are better music appliances, and all those music appliances are paying the fees.
To those of us who remember personality DJs, think Wolfman Jack in American Graffiti, it all sounds so robotic now. And David, as a university professor, you walk among the young who are big streaming consumers. If music disappeared from FM, would 19-year-olds even notice?
They wouldn't care. They don't care where they get it from. They care what they get. Now, most people have been, and still are, listening to FM radio if they're listening for music, but they're not getting the music that they used to get. If you listen to FM radio now, you will hear, by virtue of any format, hit songs. If you're listening to a Spanish station, you'll hear the Spanish hit songs. If you're listening to, well, you name the format, and they play the hits. And so where do you get new music from? And because most FM stations refuse to go there, that's where the streaming stations are. Let's take a look at what we have as far as streaming. Most people do the streaming on their phone. So let me tell you, and I'm of the age where I wouldn't stream that much on the phone, but I have apps that include Pandora, YouTube Music, TuneIn, SiriusXM, Radio Garden, iTunes, Spotify, Django, Apple Music, Spreaker, Live by Live, iHeart Music, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. And that's for somebody who listens to a lot of talk radio.
Yeah.
But when I want music, I want what I want to get. And I'm going to more likely get it from there than from any place else.
These buttons you've just recited, too, are now all over the dashboard in new cars, crowding out the AM/FM buttons. We're speaking with esteemed radio executive turned media studies professor David Bernstein and Paul Gleiser, who, in addition to owning radio stations, is himself a popular conservative radio and TV pundit. His blog is youtellmetexas.com. David and Paul both appeared at the recent Talkers Conference at Hofstra University, as did Bill O'Reilly.
Without Rush Limbaugh, who was really the leader of it, there's no doubt that Rush Limbaugh was the leader of the conservative movement in America. There's no politician that came close to him, and there's nobody on television that can touch him. And he had built that up over decades, and his reach was so vast, and for 3 hours a day, you could count on him putting forth what the conservative point of view was. That's gone. So now you have, it's balkanized now. Instead of one standard bearer, you have 10.
David and Paul, we three met here a couple of months ago as various would-be Rush replacements were carving up the map of his hundreds of affiliate stations. And Paul, yours was one of those stations. How is life after Limbaugh going there in East Texas?
So far, so good, but it's a chapter that's still being written. We don't know the long-term impact of the absence of Rush. We're still in the process of having that story written. I can't tell you until a year from now what the impact of Rush's absence is. We're going to feel it. We won't have the kind of numbers that we had with Rush without Rush, I can tell you that. Will the format continue? Absolutely. Will people still come to talk radio to get their conservative fix? Absolutely. But I don't think there's ever going to be a guy like Rush again. I don't think there's going to be one guy that is the absolute definition of the format again, the way Rush was.
You went with Fox Across America with Jimmy Fallon, and your advertisers stuck with you, correct?
Yes, the clients are happy, and this radio station, they like the radio station. And there's a lot more to this radio station than just Rush Limbaugh, and that's true here. It's not necessarily true with a lot of Rush Limbaugh radio stations. A lot of Rush stations, it's the Rush station, and that's all they got. We were careful to make sure that didn't happen here.
David, I am dating myself when I wax wistful for the talent you used to manage at WOR in New York, back when your lineup included witty, wise, personal finance talkers Ken and Daria Dolan, advice guru Dr. Joy Brown, and Neil Chayet, looking at the law, among other apolitical talkers. R.I.P. Ken and Joy and Neil. But David, can lifestyle talk live again? Must talk radio just be this on-air Trump rally we now hear?
No. It has to come back. There cannot be the same drum roll on and on and on and on. Even if you buy into it, even if you believe it, even if you love it, there's still more to life than just that. And if radio is the great entertainment medium that it is, and it is, then we have to get broader. We have to be able to provide all kinds of lifestyle issues that affect everybody. It's arguable that a virus is not political. Now, it became political, But the fact of the matter is, people still needed information, and it didn't matter which political party they felt they're affiliated with. The fact is that life continues with many, many tentacles coming out from our being. And where those tentacles reach will be determined by what receptors are out there. If there is talk radio receptors out there and they're willing to take in lifestyle issues, important issues, by the way. It's not that politics is the only important issue and everything else is not important. We're talking about all of life's important issues, and they're different to different people. And we, as talk radio, must serve them.
Corporate radio's bloodletting has been brutal for talent our age, but there can be opportunity at entry level. David, I've just got about 30 seconds, so don't overthink this. Right off the top of your head, give me adjectives. Describe the budding broadcaster for whom these could be opportune times. Profile him or her, and what key skills should be prominent on that resume?
He or she needs to have A, something to say, B, be a likable individual, and C, be willing to listen. Because as information comes in, you form new thoughts, and then you can share it with people. Open their eyes, and they'll be with you every single day.
And Paul, quickly, digital skills are now a must. It's not just the live, real-time on-air show, correct?
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And these kids have them. They're native. The young kids, they learn them in school. I mean, it's magic to us.
Oh,
we develop them, but it's native to the current generation.
Oh, they're teaching us.
They're teaching us, but I would add to what David just said. You know, the so-called YouTube and Instagram stars are tomorrow's disc jockeys,
Amen.
Which have to come back if music radio is to survive.
You're right. That is the farm team. David Bernstein, Paul Gleiser, thank you for stepping into the big picture.